on, by the way?
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't I do some comments if you have a look at YouTube, because that should be running now, so you should be able to do the thing there. So far already, I can see hellos from Denise Cunningham. Hello, Jane. Nice to see you, Jane. Janice Finity. Lara, hello. Amanda, good afternoon. Nice to see you on here. We also have Laura. Oh, it's just updated. We've got even more people. Oh, Diane's watching. That's nice of her to join us.
Yeah.
Who else we got? We got Lisa Sweeting, Jan Denning. Hello, Jan, and Rebecca. Oh, Bex. Hi, Bex. How are you? And Amanda Stevenson, another Amanda, and Gabby Sochi has just joined us too. So good afternoon to you all, and I will do some more hellos in just a moment.
Yeah, great to
What
have
we
you
got
along,
going on,
guys.
Neil?
We have got tons going on. Before I bring Robert in, we've got some amazing things to tell you about. Obviously, our fantastic YouTube channel, which is now live, I might add, Dom.
Oh, it is good. So we're working. Sorry to those of you that have literally just been able to join us on YouTube. Apologies. There was a minor technical issue, which was actually down to me on this occasion. But it is now resolved and you should be with us. You didn't really miss much, but we'll say hello to you in a minute.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining along. And as I say, if you want to subscribe to us, just search on the Delegate Wranglers and click on the subscribe button and you won't miss any of these shows. I also just wanted to say a quick thank you to everybody who came to the lockdown social on Thursday.
That was a lot of fun.
It was amazing. We had such a laugh.
The great thing about it was that, like, everything that we planned and everything that we talked about, everything worked, and it almost within about a minute ran to time.
Yeah, it was. I put that down to Chrissy. She's an absolute diamond. Hello, Chrissy, if you're here.
Chrissy isn't watching yet, but Susie. Good afternoon, Susie. For those of you that didn't join us on the lockdown social last Thursday, Susie from iPop Premier Party Band. I can't remember the whole title. But Susie and Ryan put together the most amazing performance of Uptown Funk. We'll drop a link in the comments. We'll do that in the wrap-up just because it should be included. But it's absolutely worth watching. They did a really, really incredible job with that.
It was unbelievable. And we are going to have another one in a couple of weeks, so look out for that on the group soon.
I know you were teasing me just now with that, but you wouldn't give me any info.
No, we've had a couple of good ideas. So watch this space. And also just to say, we've got a couple of big announcements on the group coming up. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks. So I'm just going to tease those as well, but they are superb. So I can't wait to tell you about them. We're really, really excited. Anyway, so without any further ado, I thought we would introduce Robert. Robert, say hello.
Hey, Dom. Hey, Neil. Hey, everyone.
How are you?
I'm all right. Yes. I was chatting to you offline. Bit of kayaking, bit of golf for the weekend clears the old mind a bit, I think.
It absolutely does. It's very nice to have you back.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah.
First person to ever be on twice.
Apart from me.
Or?
You don't count.
I don't count. You're right.
So, Robert, do you want to give us? I mean, I know some people will have seen you already on the previous show. Do you want to give us just a quick, 60 seconds, just your history, your background, how you got into your current role?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So thank you. I've been a recruiter and event prof now for over 20 years. I've run my consultancy for 4 years. We're a specialist recruiter into the live events and experiential marketing sector. So obviously, as we've talked about offline and everybody knows, with a sector that's been hit like ours, I'm doing a lot more community work than I am paid work at the moment. So very much just sort of trying to, keep out with the community, doing things like this, keeping that networking going. And just as a caveat to that, what I'm going to go through today, I'm not a CV writer. I don't say I'm a professional writer of CVs. This is, I've seen thousands and thousands of CVs as both a hiring manager, recruiter, and an event prof. This is my advice from a recruiter's point of view and a hiring manager's point of view. I would always say with CVs, you make the final decision yourself. You guys can sort of take what you want for this and use it how you will.
Yeah,
I think just getting any form of advice, especially for those that are looking for a post-COVID role or are starting to think about a post-COVID role, I think getting any form of advice and input, perhaps from someone that's done the rounds a little bit more in the recruitment world than someone more recently, and I put that in the nicest possible way.
All right, thanks. Old man, you. I was 44 last week. I'm now feeling it. Thanks, Tom.
No, but I think
So
it's
do you want to
important
tell
to
us?
get input from people.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so do you want to give us a quick overview about what the show is going to be? I know we kind of dubbed it as a CV Masterclass and, how to make it a real page turner, but do you want to give us a quick overview? And, do people need to get pens and papers? Do we need to follow it up after the show? What's the best thing to do?
So after the show, on my website at the moment, under the candidate link, I actually have created a CV template for people to download themselves.
We should have done this in advance. Robert, what's the link?
So www.usas.co.uk. So yousas.co.uk. Click on candidates. In there, you'll see my masterclass tips plus a Word document you can download. Just really because I think what happens with CVs is people take on so much advice that the CV ends up mucky, and some people just like to start again.
Yeah.
So the template's there for you to do at your own time. And I think this will be recorded anyway, won't it? So people can see it later as well.
It is, yeah.
But if I know the event professionals like I do, everyone's got a pen and paper, 2 pens in case the first one runs out.
Clipboard, you name it.
Yeah. As you say, so what this will be is just a sort of top line overview about sort of some do's and don'ts around some advice and tips as well, general layout. And some real sort of myth busting sessions, because we've all got our own ideas. We all think, we all get told about what we should and shouldn't do with CVs. So this is just to give you 20 years worth of history. Hopefully by the end of this, people will sort of look at a CV as a different approach, rather than that thing that everyone sort of says, oh, I should do it, I don't want to, and I don't really, feel I have to because I've been doing this for a long time. So it should just be a starter as well as a sort of touching up of people's CVs as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cool. So you've got some slides, Robert. Is that the best way you're going to run through these?
Yeah, I mean, what
Tom, did you want to say?
You and I sort of.
Did you want to say quick hellos, Tom? Before.
No, I think let's get into it. We'll come back to hellos and other people in the group in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Okay, so.
Sorry, Robert. Crack on.
No. Remember, I can't see you now because I've got my slide deck up, so it's really awkward for me. Sorry. So yeah, the first piece of advice I always talk, and this is again, I'm doing lots of one-to-ones with people in the sector. I've had over 80 people book in, and I think a lot of people at the moment, we're in sort of disaster recovery. It's been put on us rather than people starting to look for careers. So there's quite a sort of pressure and stress about getting a CV up to date. So I've tried to look at this from the other side. It's about understanding what your CV does. So rather than think about it as the end, it's about thinking that CV. Weirdly enough, that CV is not going to get you the job. That's the first thing to think about. The CV in the chain is your personal marketing document. It is the first time a prospective employer, a recruitment consultancy, a hiring manager, it's the first time they lay digital eyes on you. And the one and only purpose of that CV is to get you to the next step. Now, the next step is either, telephone interview or Zoom at the moment or face-to-face. So I think that's the first place where people really need the advice on. The CV is not going to get you the job, okay? It's there to get you in front of the people who are going to get you the job. So when you think about what the point of the CV, if you think about it from a person of what you're writing, the other thing that we really need to look at with the CV is you're no longer writing your CV about what you want people to know. And I know that sounds a bit crazy. It's the same as marketing. When you're writing your CV, you need to be thinking about the audience. Who is going to read your CV? So it's all around the tonality, the word. You're not writing, that phrase, it's not what you write, it's how they read it. Or it's not what you say, it's how they hear it. It's exactly the same in the CV document. The skills and experience side of things, look, I'm not going to focus a lot on that because I am assuming that if you're a head of events, you're not going for a CFO role, somewhere or something you've never done. So I don't focus a lot on skills of experience. We'll talk about transferable skills later, but this document is around layout, marketing, tonality, language, and some tips. So before we get going, think about what it's for. And Neil, this works best, especially as I can't see you. If you want to jump in at any time, that helps me so I know that I'm not talking to myself.
Sure. Go on.
So first things first, we'll do some Mythbusters. So those symbols are supposed to be yes, no, maybe. And I'll do a couple of these with you, Neil. Mythbusters to me are all these things that people have picked up over the ways. You should do this, you should do that. So I'll just ask you a couple. If you guys want to comment in the notes, your thoughts, and we'll have a look at what people think. So is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
So the first one I'll always come to is pictures. What do you think, Neil, about people putting pictures on a CV, or what does the audience feel about putting pictures on a CV?
Well, I know personally when I were a lad, no one ever put a photo on, no one at all. I think it's something that's come in probably over the last 10 years or so. I could be wrong. I think it's probably 50-50, but I'm not an expert because it's not like I'm recruiting all the time. But I think depending on the role that you're going for, it could be a plus and a minus. And I know it's probably something that you shouldn't judge people by. So, it's a tricky one, really. But
I mean, I've had
ballpark?
CVs in for jobs that I've advertised over the last couple of years, and I can't think of an immediate example where I've actually seen a picture on the top of a CV. And
I can't see any of the comments. Are people commenting yes or no, or do they not care?
Not yet, but we are going to ask people directly to comment. What's your thoughts? Do you put your photo on a CV? What do you think as an employer about people that put photos on CVs?
Yeah, good point. We're just waiting for someone down to comment, Rob.
Well, what I'll do is I'll do a couple of these because obviously for timing, and then I'll run through a few if that's all right. So the ones I'll ask you in the audience: pictures on CVs. How many pages do you think a CV should be? And should you do a cover letter?
Sorry, what was the last one? Should you do a cover letter?
Covering letter, yeah. They're the ones I hear the most. And then we'll run through some. While you're waiting for comments, I'll give you some absolute Mythbusters advice.
Go on.
You wouldn't believe how many CVs I get with emails of things like sexybabe@gmail or stuff like that.
I had exactly this conversation with someone last week. I'm not going to name any names.
Robert, I've been trying to change my email for a long time. It's just more difficult than you think.
Are you sexybabe@hotmail.com, Neil?
That's me. That's me.
Or even worse, at AOL. There's one person left with AOL. I mean, obviously, things like email, things like if you're sending over a CV as a file, I can't think of today's date, but, don't put your initials and the date as the file, because that will mean something to you, but it means nothing to the people that you're sending that to. Little things like that. Save the file as Neil Thompson and the role that you're going for. Trust me, hiring managers and recruiters will love you for it. It also
I'm guilty of that. I have done that. Put like October 19 or whatever.
And I know that's important, but it's you've got to think about the end user. Things like date of birth. Absolute obviously, don't be putting your date of birth on. Where you live, even if you're not putting your address. And we'll talk about this in a minute. It's all about unconscious bias. Somebody based in Canary Wharf, if they read Milton Keynes or Reading or Petersfield, Leather, anything that they will assume that's too far out of London, and they will put you in the no or the maybe pile. They might not know that you can get from Milton Keynes to the centre of London quicker than it used to take me from Richmond to Camden.
So just to clarify, then you're saying don't put your date of birth on, don't put your address on. You don't even put your town on or anything? Nothing.
I personally wouldn't. Because what you've got to remember, if we take this all the way back to what that document is to get you a phone call. On the phone call, you can talk to it. On a phone call, if someone says, "Oh, you're in Milton Keynes," that's going to be tough for you. You can talk about that. If you've put Milton Keynes on your CV and they assume that you can't do it, you're not even going to get to the talking stage.
Yeah, just going to say, jump in. We've had some good comments in. Jan Denning said, "Hi, Jan, by the way. I used to put a professional pic, but was told to take it off. But I personally like it." Amanda Thurlow said,
to be fair, Jan also said, "What's wrong with sexy babe?"
Amanda Thurlow said, "Recruiters are likely to be able to find your picture online." Amanda Stevens and also Amanda Stevens also said, said, "I do it for freelance roles. It's a good way of getting a bit of recognition. People actually can recognize your face. You know, they might
Yeah, and
recognize
actually
your face rather than
that's quite an interesting one. The idea of using the picture as the reminder, because we all walk past people at trade shows or at exhibitions, or we'll meet people through networking events and stuff. And perhaps from that perspective, it's quite a good idea. There's a couple of others in there. Go on, Neil.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Lisa tweeting on YouTube. Hi to all the YouTube watchers, by the way. Also, I'd never put a photo on but this is an interesting one, as I've come across a few that have them on and wondered whether I should. But I've noticed recruiters going on LinkedIn anyway. So, like, going back to what somebody else said there, you know, you can find the picture anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Janice said 1-2 pages. Paul Luxer said, I include my LinkedIn profile link so it's easy for recruiters to find me.
Yeah.
Did you do it?
What's the right answer, Robert?
Yeah,
What's the right answer in your
Robert?
opinion?
Not the right answer, remember. This goes back to how I said this at the beginning about what a CV. Everything that you guys are saying is assuming you're in front of someone or you've got to interview. Your CV, remember, is getting you, imagine it as a metaphorical, getting you in the door. Okay?
Yeah.
The problem with putting a picture on, and this is why I would never put a picture on at all, the problem with putting a picture on is what I call unconscious bias. Okay? It's not looking at it as, you know, making a decision on, diversity or anything like that. People look at a picture, and we do it as human beings. People start to make an assumption of what you're like as a person before they've even met you. You know, if your picture is you in a sports top or something, they'll start to assume. If you're in a shirt and tie, they'll start to think you're a certain way. And what happens, and we talk about the CV journey later, is people make those assumptions, and you've got to think of it as there's a pile in front of them. Yes, no, maybe. That is the hiring manager's job, okay?
Yeah.
Take the applicants and put them into yes, no, maybe. If you're that no or maybe pile because of picture, because somebody who isn't even going to hire you, that's not what their job is, they're already making assumptions. For me, play it safe. I won't put any pictures on.
Okay.
The comment you had was absolutely right from the secondary. Everybody now, especially now that we're not in offices as much or at all, as soon as you get your CV and you get forward, people go and look at your LinkedIn profile anyway. That's where they go. So if they want to see a picture, they see it. Personally, it's a no. Date of birth, we talked about. How many pages? For me, it doesn't matter. It's about the
people. Just to give you some feedback, some people have said a mixture between 1, 2, 3, 4 to being all kinds of different lengths of that. Does it depend on the role you're going for?
I mean,
as well?
personally, I've had CVs that are 7 pages long, and obviously, you know, I wanted to reach down the email and kill someone because that is ridiculous. But for me, it's about content. It's about content. You know, for me, a CV should be 800 to 1,200 words. That's something that my mentor Martin told me years ago, and I always think about, you know, when you're reading information, what you've got to remember again is you are one. Sorry to say it this way, you are one faceless applicant in amongst 30 or 40 other people applying for the same role. Okay. Yeah. Think about what the reader's having to go through. If you can't succinctly get across your information you need for that person to make a decision within 800 to 1,200 words, you need to relook at what you're saying because you're filling. Yeah. Now, whether that's 1 page, 4 pages, you know, whatever your type font, but that is the amount of words really. And on the page count, again, and we talk about this a bit later, you know, your work history, anything over 10 years starts to get into, is this really pertinent and relevant? If it's not, drop it after 10 years. Why is it in there unless it's perfectly relevant? I mean, again, we'll talk about this on the document. So for me, 2 pages, 3 pages feels about right. Now, the thing is, what you've got to remember is people print on both sides. So if you're doing 3 pages, they're going to have 2 pieces of A4. So you've already given them more there. What you've got to remember is now as well, it's about scrolling. So can you imagine scrolling 3 pages, 4 pages of text? Think about the reader. Okay, that's just my advice. Where you live,
Robert, sorry, can I just jump in there? So sorry. I was just going to say, you might be coming to this, but does it make any difference on the type of paper you use, whether you should print double-sided? You know, does that make any difference putting in a fancy envelope? You know, all these kind of things. Gimmick type thing.
Email and uploads. To be honest, I can't remember the last time someone sent.
Well, would that make a difference? Though, would it make a difference if somebody sent it to you by post?
I think it does. Again, you've got to look at the situation we're in at the moment. There's nobody in the offices. We don't know who's furloughed. We don't know who's there still. You know, I think there are some things about sending, you know, making an impact we're in a creative environment. But again, you've got to remember there was that thing about, Social Chain, the Manchester-based marketing. Someone dropped a CV off, and I mean this, by a live owl.
Yeah, we had this conversation when you were on last time.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I remember.
It just gets into my head of Social Chain. They'd be sat there saying, "Oh, what a creative! If you sent that to." I mean, I used to work at Bank Sadler in Camden, and it was an open plan office with 150 people. If you sent an owl in there, A, it's not going to get to me because someone's going to get that before it gets to me, and B, that's not the brand. That's not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a difference between being creative and standing out and gimmicky. And I always err on the side of, if you think it's a gimmick, it probably is a gimmick.
Yeah. And anyway, owls are so last year. You need a drone. It's all about drones.
Not a sentence I imagined I would ever hear in my life.
Owls are so lost.
That's going to be your trap line on the video. Owls are so last year.
You'd read that CV if I opened with that, wouldn't you?
You would. I actually would, yeah. That's more, 3 or 4 pages. I'm not really, nobody's bothered. It's about the content. It's about getting across to the reader I'll give you an example. How many seconds, and it is seconds, how many seconds do you think a recruiter or a hiring manager or an internal person, when they get a CV, how many seconds do they scan it before deciding whether to before deciding
be really low.
So it's two different things. So scan it, put you in the yes, no, maybe pile, read the yeses and maybes, and then make a shortlist. So how many seconds to scan?
What does everybody think in the group? Everybody just give us a few seconds for that. Oh, I'm going to say, you're going to shock me and say it's really, really low. I'm going to guess at.
Keep an eye on YouTube for the comments as well. I'm just going to check LinkedIn too. Just
15 seconds. I'm going to guess. Definitely.
I think I'm going
something
lower.
like that maximum. I'd say.
I think it could be lower. At 8.
Some others while you're waiting, or
just waiting for someone to come in. Looking on YouTube. Some points. Margie on YouTube. On LinkedIn and YouTube. Sorry. I think we have to make it easy for the reader scanner to get to the important points for the job, which I think is what you're saying there in a nutshell. We've had some times coming in. Gabby saying 3 seconds. Anika 3 seconds. Jan 15. Yeah. Wow. Elaine 5.
Kirsty 5. Felicity 10.
No more than 15 though, and definitely I'd say the consensus is anywhere between 10 and 5 really.
Sharon also said my friend sent a balloon in a box with his CV. He got the job.
Well, wow. That's great, but I'm telling you now, the balloon in the box didn't get him the job. It was he got that, or he or she got that job. The balloon in the box got him past the first stage to get the interview.
Yeah.
And that's great, but again, what you've got to remember is the CV is to get you the interview, and that's worked perfectly. And I love hearing things like that. But I hear far more. I've had a bloody gold envelope that I've had to go and sign for and pay package because they forgot to do. Do you know what I mean?
Ways not to get the job. Yeah.
The whole thing about that, though, Neil and Dom, is why run the risk of that being taken away? You've got to, and again, more than ever, you might have been up against 3 or 5 people for a job. You're now going to be up against 5 or 10.
Absolutely.
Why put another possible?
Yeah. So you say play it safe, and let your quality of your actual CV writing get over the line. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to this time. We've had lots of people. Right. The guesses have ranged from 3 to 15 seconds, I think. Well, there's no prize for the right answer here.
Kirsty and Elaine are right. It's rough. It's 6 seconds. So
wow.
Okay.
But let me be clear. That is 6 seconds to scan a CV before deciding am I going to take that further. They then will read that CV for another 30 to 40 seconds before deciding. So what happens is you get your CV. Can I scan that? Now, 6 seconds isn't a long time. I like the fact Gabby said 3. That's hilarious. I like that. 6 seconds isn't a long time. But if you can't scan a CV and decide, is that something I'm going to look at again or not? Do you see what I mean? That's the first thing. Yeah. The second thing is 30 seconds will then be the yes pile, the no pile, and there'll be no maybe because you'll have been read again. So it's like reading a book. Think of it, are they going to read the next page or are they going to keep going? Because it's sort of advertising, strapline, copy, call to action. That's what a CV is. It's marketing and advertising of you to get you in front of them. Because once you're in front, culture, values, personality, skills, experience, you as a human, them as a company, the stuff we should focus on. But unfortunately, and I don't want this to be like I'm negative or too pragmatic, you are an applicant at this stage. When you meet somebody or are interviewed, you are a candidate. There's a huge difference between the two.
Yeah.
So, Robert, a quick question. Are you saying that, do they get past page 1? I mean, are you saying that it should be like a good pop song, straight to the chorus kind of thing, all your big hits on the right at the front? Or, do we spread it out? Do we spread it out a bit?
I'll wait till I come onto the layout of that, if that's all right.
Okay.
Because
Sure,
I do put that right out in my... I'll just quickly run through another stuff. Things like reference available on request. I'm not that bothered about it, but we assume you have references. So if it's the case of, going over to another page, you can drop that. Contact details. I've had emails where people, CVs, where they don't put a mobile number on to contact.
Yeah.
Right.
I cannot tell you, I cannot stress enough. If you don't put your mobile on, I promise you are in the what are you doing part.
This is the case of, if you want me, you'll find me.
I know, that's great, but you've got 40 people as applicants to go, and you're going to go up against 10 for the job. It's getting in there.
Yeah.
Another key thing in our area, things like infographics. Now, obviously, if you're a designer or a developer or something, that's a bit different. But lots of people using, these infographics CVs, and they're great. Absolutely wonderful. Problem with those sort of things is when you send them over, they don't pass very well onto a CRM or an ATS system. So that's applicant tracking software. If you are going to go full stuff like that, just as an aside, send a copy of your CV as a PDF as well. So, have the sexy here I am.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But just send a good old boring PDF written out normally. Because what happens is that could get put into a computer generated software. It might miss out things. It might not read things because it's infographic. You might be missing huge chunks of real important information because visually no one's going to read it because it's either on the screen or on a computer.
Yeah.
Now, again, just to be clear, two things. This is my advice. I'm not telling you this is right or wrong. And as a side note, just realize how I'm coming across it. I am a retained recruiter. Okay. So I actually write the job descriptions for clients and I do the interviewing on behalf of clients. So obviously the CVs I get don't get a 6-second scan read and a 30-second. I am paid to read CVs. That is part of my job. Okay. So just to be clear, in case any of my clients or candidates are like, I hate you. But it is, it's unfortunately that is it. What was the other one? Covering letter.
Yeah.
Covering letter. I don't know if you've had any comments on that or.
Yeah, someone did comment actually. I can't remember who it was. Someone said, she always sends a covering letter, and I can't remember who it was that said that.
I mean, me personally, I think covering letters are a complete waste of time, and I'll explain why. So what happens is the covering letter becomes a separate entity document to the CV. People pour their heart and soul into the covering letter. They tell the reader, this is why I've applied, this is why you're right. And what happens is, dear old hiring manager, and I'll talk to you about the chain of command in a minute, dear old hiring manager emails your details over, that covering letter will not go because they're told to get CVs. Okay? For me, the most important bit on a CV is your personal profile, your 30-second pitch at the top, and we'll talk about layout. That is where the covering letter gets put, because if you can't put it in a couple of paragraphs, again, you're filling. What I think is good now is on the email. So if you think about a CV attachment, and obviously you write, dear Neil, attach my CV. That is where you write your why you're doing it. So you're writing to the reader, not as a covering letter, because for me, if they live separately, again, you're putting a possible barrier to, well, this is a nice CV, but if they'd have read this covering letter, they'd have thought you're the amazing candidate. So it's all about making it frictionless, making it smooth. I've seen covering letters that are beautifully worded and written, and they'll never see the light of day because people want to know about the CV. And it's the hiring.
Guilty. I've done that. I've definitely written that in the past.
There are some people will say you have to do a covering letter as part of it. I get that. Some people will say, please upload your covering letter. Quick tip on that one. Again, don't repeat them on both, but you can't have them stand as separate things, because again, it's about decision making. It's the personal profile to me. That to me is the modern covering letter. That profile should not be saying, I'm professional and punctual and confident and passionate and all those other crappy buzzwords that are just a waste of space. It should be telling how you add value, how you can help them, why they would basically be a fool not to speak with you. That is you telling them why they should take you further, how you can benefit. It's the same as any client consumer relationship, you know, how you can help with their pinch points, their challenges, how you can move their business forward. That is a personal profile.
Okay, cool.
For me. That was it. That's the mythbustery thing. That's slide 1. We've got 99 left to go.
Strap in, guys.
So anything on that, Neil, before I move on?
Yeah, I've just had a quick question myself. Do you think, and I understand what you're saying there about covering letter and the tone of it and, you know, the buzzwords, but do you think it matters who you're applying to? So if you're applying to Microsoft, is it different to you applying to a independent country house hotel for a job, who might be more of a family and might be, you know, more emotional than a ruthless kind of Microsoft? So do you adapt it slightly?
Yeah, I mean, personally, in our industry, so say when I was coming out of Banks Sadler, so Banks is a, you know, large travel meetings and events, but people would think that was more of a corporate-y, staid environment, okay? Which, trust me, it bloody wasn't. But what happens is the language you want to read as a Banks Sadler is going to be different to a hot pickle or a bearded kitten, but the CV, what people think is, I don't want to do separate CVs. You don't have to do separate CVs. You have to do separate profiles. If you don't, and I only mean sector, I don't mean for company. Not every job you apply for, you don't have to do a profile. You should have CVs for the sector. So if you're applying for venues, your profile should talk about venue, and in the language that you know venues talk about.
Yeah.
And the same thing for creative and corporate and in-house. Each of those people speak a different language, and each of those people have differing opinions of what the other sector's like, and we all know it and we all do it. So yes, you're absolutely right. You need to speak in that language. But again,
that's a really good tip. I think that's a really good tip, though, for people to have. You know, all they need to do is change their the personal profile bit, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, the rest of it's pretty much the same. But you know, that's something that everybody could do if you're applying to, you know, different types of sectors each time you apply for a job.
And I'll give you a real life example. I see this a lot is people that have got a large freelance background going for permanent roles, or people that are permanent going for freelance roles.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, you know, everybody of your audience now, they will know the barriers that people will ask questions. So I always think if you know what people are going to question, they're a freelancer, they're only coming permanent because of IR35. They're permanent, going freelance, they want more money and work less. And again, tarring a whole brush with unconscious bias. If you know they're going to say your personal profile, if you're not referencing what you know they're going to pick up or think, you're setting yourself up to fail. You know, if you're a freelancer going to permanent, I saw one when I thought if I was still going, somebody put, I know you think I'm only doing this because of IR30. I can't remember the language. I'm not. I've been looking for a while. This is what, and I read it and was like, well done. You get it. And also you're applying for the right job. Because that's the other thing as well. This is not the time to spam your CV out. In fact, this is the time more than ever to only apply for roles that you want to do, that you're good at, that you can do. You can add value and you can prove it. You know, because on one of my one-to-ones last week, you know, somebody was getting no's 20 times a week, and no, and then another person was getting 20 interviews a week and getting no. And actually what we worked out was the first person getting 20 no's from sending their CV was spamming and just sending it everywhere, so their CV wasn't pertinent. So that's a knockback. But the person getting all the interviews, the CV was so good, but actually the calls and stuff were more around, I just want to check what you wrote because I didn't really understand it. Yeah. Now, I would rather have 3 calls a week with people that I'm really getting excited for because I know they want to speak to me, rather than having 17 people tell me no, which you're going to take personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's not a personal thing, but it is, you're going to take it personally. And, you know, mental health's really important.
Absolutely. Just very quickly, just going back on another point that we were talking about just now, Anika just asked for a point of clarification. So the personal profile is highlighting relevant experience, and email is why you're right for the job. Is that correct?
I'll show you that when we come on to it. But
okay, fine. Let's get on.
It's not a bad rule of thumb, but I'll show you.
Cool.
Right. So this part here, now this is about understanding, and again, it's a linear thread. It's understanding what happens with your CV, who you're writing for, and I think this then starts making your life a bit easier, because like some of those mythbusters, people say, well, no, I want to say this, or I think this, and that is the mindset I'm trying to change with these sessions. Is you've got to think about the writer. So if you look at, and this is my picture of, and again, it sounds awful, but at this stage, you are a faceless applicant, okay? Huge difference, applicant to candidate. Candidate, we're now talking. And unfortunately, you're going to have 30, 40 applicants coming into these roles. So it's the same, like everybody has probably recruited themselves. It's called a side of the desk job, actually. We've all been told we've got to go into an interview. We've all printed off a CV an hour before we've gone in. We've all walked into a meeting saying, who am I seeing? Why am I here? What's happening?
Mhm.
The bottom line is, I am not naive enough to think that the world is sunshine and lollipops, but I'm also a very positive person. So what I'm doing here is saying, whether you like this or not, this advice is going to aid you. When you get in front of them, that is you. That is all you, and that's all the fun stuff. This is about getting in the door. Okay, so it's putting it down to its linear level. So if you think about this as a funnel, this is how your CV will get down to the most important person in the whole process, which weirdly enough is not the person that's going to give you the job. So this is how your CV. So HR internal recruitment is, an obvious one. Speculative approach. You've sent your CV in. You've seen something they've done. Please keep me on file. Job advert is obvious. External agency, a recruitment company, or if it's a senior search role, somebody like me, a referral. My friend Dom, you should speak to. Right, I'll have a chat with your friend Dom. An ATS, which is the scourge of my life, but a lot of people use it. It's called applicant tracking software. An ATS is where you upload your CV to one of these portals. A computer reads it, a bit like Tron in the old days, and it searches for keywords, and then it spits you out as a computer says yes or no without it even getting in front of a human. And trust me, personally, if an agency is using an ATS, I would just think twice straight away anyway. But that's my personal view.
Yeah.
So this is how your CV funnels to the hiring manager. Okay. So the hiring manager is the single most important person in this profile. Okay. Sorry, in this process. The hiring manager is somebody that has been tasked either internally, go and get me some CVs for an ECD, exec creative director. We're hiring an ECD, exec creative director. Here's the job description. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's the experience. Go and find them for me. Okay, that's a hiring manager. Now the hiring manager could also be the recruiter, but the recruiter is still sending your CV to the internal hiring manager. But let's just say we call it the gatekeeper. So the gatekeeper is the person who basically is going to say, yes, your CV gets in front of the interview panel, or no, you don't go any further. Okay. Now, this is why, taking it all back, you are writing at this stage for the hiring manager, because very, very small occasions would your CV go from the hiring manager to the line manager and you not get an interview. There'd have to be a serious problem there, because the hiring manager is basically saying, I've done something wrong. So the gatekeeper is the person looking for keywords, looking for experience, background, skills, everything we've talked about. Okay. Are you still there?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, sorry.
We're just listening.
Sorry.
Not seeing you. I'm like, that's crazy. So once the hiring manager passes to the line manager is the person you would report to if you got the job. Okay, so that is what I call the overall decision maker. They are the person who's going to say, welcome to the company, or I'm sorry, you're not coming into the company. Okay, but you're only going to get in front of that line manager by getting through that gatekeeper. And then the hiring panel, or the other stakeholders, they are people that have been tasked with, help me with this recruitment, help me interview, help me select the person that's going to come and join the business. So if you think about those three core things, the hiring panel, the line manager, that's secondary with your CV. Your CV to them becomes part of your application, okay? The CV to the hiring manager is the decision making. Am I going to put my credibility on the line and pass you to my line manager or the line manager and say, here's what you're looking for? Now that could be a recruitment agency could make that decision. There you've got two gatekeepers. You've got your recruitment consultant, plus you've got the client recruitment consultant, the client gatekeeper. But the bottom line is somebody is reading that with a yes and no. So when you start thinking about how your CV gets there and who you're writing for, trust me, it makes writing your CV, all those things before, like I was giving advice and everyone sat there saying, oh, I'm not doing that, or this bloke's an idiot, or whatever. When you start thinking, I've got to write for somebody else, and it's just that gatekeeper, because the line manager will look at your LinkedIn, the line manager will look at your sexy portfolio that you've sent in, or your link to your website, depending on your role. The hiring panel of stakeholders are probably...
We just lost Robert.
We just lost Robert, I think.
Well, that's particularly bad timing because he was just getting into a really good flow.
Oh well. Do you want to give a few shout outs while we're waiting, Dom?
While we're just waiting, I don't know what's happened, Robert. If you can or can't hear us, we've lost you completely. Whether your Wi-Fi's gone off.
You do that, and I'm going to email him.
Yeah, he's completely frozen. I can see on our screen backstage, and he's just dropped out there. It's the perils of live stuff. He has completely dropped out. It's the perils of live stuff, unfortunately.
Here we go. I think he's coming back.
I don't know what happened.
Hello, Robert. We can't see you. We can hear you.
We can't see and we can't hear. We can hear you, I think. There we go.
Oh, sorry about this. I don't know why you've dropped off my webcam.
We've completely dropped off. We can't see your slides. We can't see anything, Rob.
I'll tell you what, then I'll just do a quick recap.
Yeah, go on.
Some of the things that Robert was talking about.
Slides?
We got him back. Yes.
Can you see slides, but not my mug?
Let me, Neil. You just do what you were going to do. I will just have a quick chat with Rob off air.
Yeah. So some of the things Robert was talking about for your CVs. These were some no's. No picture, no date of birth, no address. No, not yet. So no address, yeah. Also, make sure no work history. Well, nothing after 10 years. Up to 10 years is fine. Nothing past 10 years. And then the things that were yeses were 2 to 3 pages maximum, 800 to 1,200 words. If you're going to send in a fancy kind of infographic, make sure you accompany it with a PDF. You don't need a cover letter. Just let your intro to your email be your cover letter. That kind of thing. How are we doing, Dom? Have we still got Robert? This could be the Neil and Dom show. Hey, he's back.
The important one.
Sorry about that.
Conscious, we've got about 20 minutes or so left.
Robert, yeah, I'm fine.
So I don't know where we are with your slides.
We've got about 2 slides left. That's about it.
That's fine. Okay. So we can see you, but we can't see your slides. But you are at least back. So I don't know what happened there. It's just the perils of technology in these times, right?
This is why live events will never go away.
Oh, look, stuff happens in live events too. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right, that should be.
Yeah.
Are we just waiting for your PowerPoint now, Rob?
Is that it there?
Yeah, that's it. I can see it again.
Yeah, you got it?
Okay, let's get you onto it.
Sorry about that.
Pick up where you left off, please, sir.
So, yeah, I mean, did it fall off? Where was the last sort of bit it fell off on?
You were just finishing off this slide, I think. You were
brilliant. Perfect. So, finished. I think, the overall summing up of this slide is it's just writing for that gatekeeper. And again, I did hear you summing up. I don't know how it's been. Please remember that everything I'm saying is advice and guidance. And tomorrow you'll speak to somebody else and they'll say, I think you should always put pictures on. And they'll give you just as much as a reason why you shouldn't. This is just me saying, I've seen this over 20 years. I've seen this from all the sides. And I know that I can, and I've got to be very careful of my brand. I try very heavily to, I'm an event professional who recruits, but I'm very candid and clear on these things that, look, this is how it is, and there's not one person watching this now that has not at some point quickly looked at a CV and passed it on. It's don't take this personally. This isn't about you as a person. This is just about what they've been tasked to do, which is hire. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's my caveat, just in case I lose business over down
And just to let everybody know, I've got some questions from YouTube, but I'll let you carry on, Robert, for now, and then we'll come back to them at the end. But you guys on YouTube, I will get to your questions.
So this is where you mentioned earlier. So I think the lady, I can't remember the name, you mentioned about a profile and personal profile, email, and that sort of thing. This is just some very bog standard how to lay out a CV. Now, as I mentioned on the website, I would try and open it up for you, but I'm very conscious I might break something at the moment. So I'll open it up at the end, see if it works. But the profile, the document template is laid out, and it's got tips on there as you're laying it out. But this is just a very simple how to lay out. So as we talked about before, your personal profile, that should be the bit that grabs the reader and makes me say, I am so looking forward to reading this person. Because what you've got to remember about a CV as well, whether you're a hiring manager, a recruiter, whatever, they want you to be the right person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I keep asking to make sure you're still there. So if you could say words every now and again, because I can't keep them
Okay.
But you know what I mean? Nobody wants to read your CV and go, oh, great, there's another no. Do you know, we want to read it. People want to read it and say, this is it, I found it, because that's the job. That's what they're trying to do, is find that person. So your personal profile is exactly that. It is you saying why you think you are, you know, our business would be worse off without you. Why do we need you? How stupid would we be to say no to you? And it's not about the 30-second pitch as in sales. It's about reaching out to the reader and dragging them in and saying, you've got to read my CV. You know, so that is all around things like the email for me is if you were applying to, I don't know, say Jack Morton, who do the annual fireworks display, you know, I've followed Jack's for ages and I love the firework display. Here's some work I've done that had fireworks in it. Now, I'm just obviously paraphrasing because don't mind that. That's the sort of thing in the email. That's the thing the hiring manager's like, oh, you've done research. You get me. I'm now going to be positively looking at your CV. If you put that in front of a line manager, it's wasted space. So on the email, in answer to the lady's question, the email is where you basically blow smoke up that hiring manager's arse to get them to read your CV properly.
Yeah. Great.
So experience in chronological order. For me, I always put things like key highlights right at the top. So you have personal profile, key highlights, key skills. More and more now, the section for me on where you've worked, it's less and less important, because what people are really interested in, who you've worked for, what brands you've worked for, what projects you've worked on, all the sexy stuff, and some highlights. So again, everything you're doing is not saying, I ran a team of 22. I'm just thinking of me at Bank Sadler. I ran a team of 22. When you're writing a CV, the question you should ask yourself on every time you finish writing a part is, so what? There's your quote. So what?
Yeah.
And if you write your CV and you write something and you put, I ran a team of 22 people, and you say to yourself, so what? What will happen is you'll say, so I led a team of 22 people. I'm just, for myself, I led a team of 22 people across 5 different countries and 7 offices. That sounds impressive. But if you were reading that, what the hell does that mean to the reader? If I put, I have experience of man management on a global scale with multiple time zones and understanding the nuance. Do you see what I mean? It's the same thing, but it's written in I can see how that adds value to my business.
Yeah.
And each position, like I say, I know this sounds really crazy as well, and I see this a lot in our industry. We all assume that everybody knows each other. So when you have your, say, Delegate Wranglers, I spoke to 5 people today on my one-to-one. 3 of them I said about Delegate Wranglers because they were talking about networking. One of them said, never heard of them. The other 2 said, yep, no, I know Delegate Wranglers. So I had my little, this is what Delegate Wranglers thing is, okay? Now on your CV, if you put Delegate Wranglers CEO 5 years, what happens if somebody doesn't know who Delegate Wranglers is?
Yeah.
So you should be putting Delegate Wranglers is a, blah, 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 blah. And you do that on every job, no matter Jack Morton. Now you could say, well, Jack's or GPJ, everyone knows that. But what division did you work in? What did you do specifically? Do you know what I mean? And it's answer the questions that you know they're going to ask. Because if you answer those questions at CV stage, you're going to get in front of them.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I heard you earlier about 10 years. Again, it's not a stickler, but if after 10 years you're starting going into when you worked as somewhere else away from the industry, or it's not
relevant. Yeah.
Just drop it.
What about gaps in your CV? If some of that was, 2 years of doing something, would it concern you that there might be a gap, or do you kind of be a bit creative with your dates?
Bloody hell, Neil, no. Never be creative. I heard I live by this. Tell a lie to get a job.
Yeah.
I think we've lost him again.
No way.
Robert, speak to us, or you've been frozen in time again.
We don't. I don't know what's going on here. We're having. We seem to be having some quite bad luck with this one.
Yeah.
He has completely frozen again. I can see here.
Yes. Well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that came in on YouTube,
Yep.
and we can get Robert to answer them in a minute. So Lisa Sweeting asked us, would you address the going from freelance to permanent or permanent to freelance in a cover letter or in the CV? So that's one for Robert when he's back online. Oh, hello. He's back in the room, I think.
Is he?
So this is a real BBC moment. My son is now Netflix and online on a game.
So is it his fault that you just went offline again?
As I ran downstairs to kick his ass, but there you go. It's all done now. I didn't really. He's only 5, to be fair to him. It's very embarrassing. Sorry about that. Where had I got to? Sorry.
We were actually just going to take over because we've had a few questions come in. Neil was just covering a couple in YouTube. So what you got, Neil?
Yeah, Lisa Sweeting was saying, would you address the going from freelance to permanent or permanent to freelance in the CV or cover letter?
Well, I wouldn't use a cover letter. I would put it in the personal profile. Because the personal profile, again, we've got this opinion. Oh, it was gaps, wasn't it? I'll come back to it. The personal profile, we've all got this. This is where I've got to tell them about me or how long I've been in the industry or whatever. And everybody just starts and they've all got the same mindset. If your mindset now is the personal profile is the bit that is you should choose me, then you'd put that in there because people will make assumptions. We went back to earlier, oh, you're IR35 or that you just want this or you're and again, I had somebody once put the reason I'm going permanent is I'm buying a house and I can't do it if I've got multiple jobs on freelance. Now, because they fronted that up, some people might think, why would you say that? Now, this was obviously me, and I get to know candidates a bit more. How we were able to talk to the client was about that. Well, you're basically guaranteed they're going to have to stay with you for like 10 years at least while they're paying off their mortgage. But what it means is because they put that in their profile, this is the reason I'm looking at going freelance to perm. Like the lady that asked the question, if you're asking that question yourself, you know that they're going to ask it. So tell them the answer. And it goes back to gaps, just before I forget, and I see this a lot with women coming back into the industry from having like mat leave. And what they do, a lot of people will try to, and you said about jazz it up and stuff. They'll try to make their mat leave, or if someone's had a 12-month travel, they try to somehow link that back to the job market, like multitasking, budgetary management, logistics of a small child and all that. And you just think, no, just say I had a year and I was on maternity leave and just move on. That's it. Because trust me, if any recruiter, any hiring manager wants to ask you questions about what you did on mat leave, I would tell them to, what, that's not a company I want to be working for. And just the same as we're in, during this process now, next year, and I guarantee it will happen, you'll have people saying, so what did you do during the coronavirus? And they will use it as a testing. And it's disgusting. And I'm seeing it already now with people, people being put under pressure.
What do you mean? So what do you mean about that, Rob?
Well, people saying, like, what did you do? Did you learn a new skill? Did you do an MBA? Did you, or did you...
Almost marking you down if you didn't.
Exactly. And it's disgraceful because, all right, so we're getting on to another subject there. But the fact is about whatever you've done, just front it up, tell people what you've done. If it is relevant, if it is pertinent, I don't know, say you're going to work for a global company as a leader of large teams and you were on a 12-month travel break where you were leading travel teams or something, of course, link it in. But if not, you just tell it up front and center.
Here's a question. If you have been, sorry to jump in, but I've just seen this. It's an interesting one because this links really nicely to another question I was going to ask you. If you've been freelance, this is from Florence Foskett. If you have been freelancing after having a permanent job, how do you present all the projects you've worked on as a freelancer? Now, my extension to that is, and something that I heard only a couple of weeks ago for the first time, is freelancers using video as part of their CV when applying for permanent jobs.
Yeah, and again, it's a really nice. What you've got to remember though is it's the same as if you were an agency pitching for a project, all right? Because if the client says, "I want to see 1, 2, 3," and you go in there with 7, 8, 9 because you think it's cool and trendy, and it's got nothing to do with what they ask, they're going to mark you down.
Yeah.
No matter how cool that was, no matter if they've asked you to do something and you've blatantly not done it. Now, yes, there's obviously flexibility around, well, you've asked this and I made more of that. And it's the same with applications. If they have said, upload your CV to this portal or email this person, that's what they've asked you to do. Now, some people will say, yeah, but you could be a bit creative and send it, but they've not asked you to do that. Yep. If it's a creative role, like the chap earlier said, put a link in your CV to your website. Put a link in that CV maybe to the video. Don't send them a video.
To a show reel. To a show reel or whatever.
Yeah. But the other thing as well you've got to remember is firewalls, security, download speeds. You download a video, you could corrupt that. Do you know what I mean? Think of everything you're doing as, how is this a barrier? I love the idea of videos.
They could be live on a Facebook show and start downloading. Someone downloads a video in the background, completely takes them offline.
Well, Robert, just to get back to that point though, if you are, I'm speaking as a former freelancer. If you're a freelancer and you've worked in the industry for 20 years, you can't list all your jobs, and you just kind of be vague about, say you've worked across these industries and these places, and otherwise you're going to be war and peace.
No, I'll tell you exactly what to do. My advice, sorry, and I see this a lot on LinkedIn and on CVs. Where people go wrong is they put George P. Johnson, Freeman, Hoppico, all these things, and what I did, and I was here 3 months, 6 months. And what they do is they do it because it looks really cool, because you've got the brand names and the brand logos. What you're doing is just making your document longer. So for me, freelance, I would much rather you say professional events or events professionals, for 10 years or whatever the date is, 2010 to 2020. And then what you would do underneath is put clients worked for, agencies worked for, projects worked on. Now, the reason I would advise you to do that is you get round the all-important confidentiality thing. So, for example, you could have worked at, I've got to think of another company. You could have worked at, I can't think of another, Smile. You could have worked at Smile for a certain client, and they won't want you to tell the world. But if you put Smile in amongst all of the clients you've worked for, agencies you've worked for, and then you put all the brands you've worked with, that's not confidential. You're just saying there's brands. So you're able to get more out. So your CV or your profile would say events professional for 10 years. Here's the agencies I've worked for. Here's the brands I've worked for. Here's the projects.
So you're not linking them to each brand for each project, is what you're saying.
And then you've got this much where you've done the thing, because what you want is, and I know why people do it, is because people want to know what brands you've worked on and what agencies you've worked with. You've told them up front, rather than the last 3 roles could have been more B2B agencies and the ones before were B2C. But if they're scrolling down, they're going, oh, look, B2B, 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 and they're gone already. Their brain's switched off.
Yeah.
I hope that helps. That actually is a real tip.
Sure. Cool.
I think we've exhausted all the questions to this point.
I've got one, but I'll wait for Robert to finish his
that CV template, this is just a very quick, this is around the CV. I get a lot of questions from people around, should I follow up? What should I do? For me, there's a very fine line between you being proactive on your application and being a pain in that potential employee's ass. And I mean things like, if they've asked you, for example, to email jobs@Delegate Wranglers, nothing wrong with emailing that. There's nothing wrong with, you can see the person who has posted that job, or you could see the person, it says reporting to our MD. You could find out that Neil Thompson was the MD of Delegate Wranglers. Nothing wrong with you not emailing Neil your CV, but emailing Neil saying, I've just applied via your portal, just wanted to give you a heads up, really looking forward to speaking with you. Okay.
Yep.
So what you've done is you've not gone against what they've said, which was email CVs to info@Delegate Wranglers, but you've put in Neil's head, oh, I'm looking out for a Robert Kenward CV now. So that, do you see what I mean? That person is already thinking, oh, Robert Kenward's going to be applying. I should be, and your brain, then your name is now in their brain.
Yeah.
Call them in a week. If somebody doesn't come back to you within a week of you applying, number one, it's not the place I want to work anyway. But I'm constantly hope everybody's lovely. It might have got lost somewhere. It might have gone into their junk. If you've emailed someone and they haven't come back to you, you pick that phone up or you drop them an email and say, I'm just following up. If you get a no and they don't give you feedback, you absolutely go at them until they give you feedback. It's not acceptable to not have feedback. And I mean, even at CV stage, I saw a recruitment website the other day that said, if you haven't heard back within 72 hours, because we get lots of applicants, just basically assume it's a no. And you look at it and you think, these are real. These are real people. This is why recruitment companies are the scumbag of the earth. And unfortunately, 80% of them play up to that by treating people like that. So, for me, it's about be proactive, do what you feel is right. That's the iron hand in the velvet glove, but without tipping over the edge of ringing them every hour or forcing them to do something. It's about thinking, if you were that person, especially if you're going direct to a client and they've probably had it just sat on the desk, Dom, can you go and find me something, please? Oh, all right, Dom's got 90 other things to do in a day, and now you've just chucked one other on his desk. You've got to think about what you're going to be in that day, but there's nothing wrong with being professional, being courteous, and following up. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. Agreed.
So my question, Robert, was it was actually to do with that. What happens if you're getting no luck? You're applying. You've got we followed some of your guidelines and we've written a decent CV. You're not getting past first base, if you like, and you're following up. If you're sending to the first to a company and you're not getting anything back from them, would you continue to send to that company, for different jobs, or is it time to have a look at your CV and change it? Even if you think you've written a perfect CV.
Yeah, I think I would always take it back to, are you applying to the right place in the first place? If you're not getting, you have to look inwards first. If you've sent 10 CVs out and nobody's come back to you and I'm assuming what you mean is no feedback at all.
Yeah.
Are you applying to the right places? Is your CV right? Is your profile right? They're the first question. The second point is, absolutely, you should be getting feedback, even if it's you are not right, I'm sorry this time.
So call them up.
But give them a week. I know, and this is the thing as well, thinking about the reader of your CV, your job hunt is the most important thing in your life at this time. I get that. I absolutely 100% get that.
Yeah.
On that person's to-do list, you're probably in the top 10, then the top 5, as the deadline gets closer, as their boss starts saying, where's my shortlist? Where's my shortlist? And then don't be surprised you get like 20 calls in a day or something, like, where are you? So in answer to your question, nothing wrong with following up. But if you're getting feedback of, no, you're not right, no, you're not right, you have to think, are you applying for the right jobs? Are you applying in the right space? Is your CV not coming across? Because again, if they're not giving you feedback on your CV, and ask for it, tell me what it was about my CV that didn't get me in front of the person.
The other thing linked to that, Robert, is what about, and I'm sure we've all done this, I've done this many times in the past when I was younger, sending CVs on spec, speculative CV, just, offering to do stuff for free or to help out and all that kind of thing. Where'd you stand on that?
There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But again, it depends on how you did it. Think about it in the real world. You wouldn't like run up to someone in their lunch queue at Pret and shove your CV in their bag and run off. That's what a speculative.
I've done that. No, I'm only kidding.
That's sometimes how spec can be. Here's my CV. When you've got a job here, what you've got to do again with that's all about the email. That's about the reader. That's about empathy, understanding. I understand you might not be recruiting at the moment. I get that you're busy. If you get a moment to look at my CV, I'd love that, but I'm here when you need me. Or if you need an amazing person, it's still about, advertising. If you need a 5-star event manager, lovely to take a call. And again, it's not saying give me a job, it's let's have a conversation. But that is all about the approach. It's a bit like recruitment is, in a weird way, a little bit like dating. You know, you wouldn't go straight to, you know, I was going to say send nudes, but you wouldn't straight away go into, you know, let's go out. You know, you're getting in touch with someone who's never heard of you before, and a speculative approach. They don't even have a job on at the moment, so that's the most cold approach. Think about how you would read that email, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But just bear in mind, you probably won't get a response to that because nobody cares. Unfortunately, there are 80% of recruitment people don't care.
Yeah, we've had another great question, and someone I was thinking about earlier, from Gabby. How important is added personal interest to your CV as well?
No,
I know, like I've run a marathon, and or you know, whatever you've done.
I would just refer you back to my so what question.
Yeah.
Because again, hobbies and interests are really important to you, and like you just said, I've run half marathons. I'm very, very proud of them. But what the hell does that matter to anyone? If I'm talking to you and we're having a chat and you mention I'm a keen runner, I am going to throw in the fact that I've run a half marathon probably every third sentence moving forward. But that's because it's pertinent to who I'm in front of.
Yeah.
Now, again, you know, I know some people, but you want to tell people this stuff. But if your hobbies and interests aren't related, you know, again, if you're going for, I don't know, a standalone role where you're fully autonomous and one of your hobbies is climbing Mount Everest on your own, yeah, I can sort of see how that would be. But I'll be honest with you, nobody ever got a job. Nobody ever got an interview from, oh, look, you've seen that they play squash and they like long walks in the country. We should give them an interview.
Very true.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I've had people who are I won't say what, but I've had people that were previously like Olympic gold medal. I've had world record, and I read it all and I'm like, this is so cool. It means nothing to the client because that's not what they're like. That helps you when you're being interviewed and they get to know how you would fit in as part of the team, how you would get on the social life, how you would gel with them, how you would be as an employee and employer. That's all important there. But is it important, or is it going to get you in front of them? If you could save that much space where you would put, and it's the same with education as well. You know, people put 9 GCSEs and 5 A levels. What a waste of time. Like, why would you do it? If you've got a degree, tell me about your degree. Don't put the date in, but tell me about your degree. Tell me about what you specialised in and tell me the score. That's sexy. That's cool. Now, all of that probably takes up education, hobbies and interests, that much in a CV. So about a third of a CV. What could you write in a third of a CV? Just think of what you could write in that space. You know,
yeah, it's a really good point.
Utilising the content.
Yeah. Okay, Robert. Yeah, great.
And one other very quick thing: always write in the first person. I, we. You know, never, ever, ever, ever. And I haven't gone into loop, but never, ever, ever write in the sort of. I think it's called.
Yeah.
The third person.
No, what's it called? Allusion, where you put your name. Robert has been a recruiter for 20 years. Robert just don't do it. Please trust me on that. Never ever do that. It's first person.
I'm fairly certain I had that on a CV once.
Oh, it's honestly, it's just like what it says is, I feel I'm so important, I'm not even talking to you. Or you've got somebody else to do it, which is, you know, fine, but they would never write in that tense anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, have you got any more slides that we're going to go through?
No, I just leave with, you're going to take lots of advice on, you're going to have your own thoughts, you're going to read stuff, hear stuff. People like me are going to give you as much advice as possible. The bottom line is, number one, it's your decision what you put in. Okay, it's all down to you. Okay, the second is, if in doubt, is it a page turner? Give it to your friends or your families. If they scan it in 6 seconds, will they get it? If they read it in 30 seconds, can they explain it to you? If your friends and family are saying to you, I don't understand this, it's wrong, and you need to listen to them and do it again.
Robert, very, very, very super last quick question. Would you say in the only an hour and 6 seconds, is anything to do with the font and the size and the, you know, do you make anything bold to stand out if, you know,
no, and again,
reading it in 6 seconds?
Now, obviously, I mentioned the 6 seconds because it's a nice bit of marketing in it, and you know, it sounds nice. Some people are going to say, "Oh, I read a CV longer than that." The human brain will just scan it. So the font, Calibri body or whatever it's called, 10 or 11 point, just standard how you would read a document, because we've all read documents that have been made 8 point to try and fit it in, and it's awful. So for me, it doesn't, we'll say one thing: don't use coloured fonts. Don't put it on a red background, because when they print,
don't use an owl.
Absolutely.
What I mean about things is also, although we shouldn't print CVs out, they do get printed out.
Yeah.
So think that if you put it on a coloured background and they print it out, it's going to look awful because it'll be grayscale.
And also, please don't use Comic Sans.
No, I get that.
I had that in the last 6 months. I have had a CV that was written in Comic Sans.
Oh yeah, and just another thing you've just reminded me. When somebody's been at the same company for a long time, that usually becomes a problem. People worry about that. So for me, and what they do is they break up their time. So they put, account manager, then a senior account manager, account director. And for me, at the top, how long you've worked at Delegate. I've worked at Delegate Wranglers for 10 years. Yeah. Okay. And then you just put MD when you were to whatever your role is now. Yeah. And then just list the jobs that you've done and the title. You don't need to put them down the middle, because what you'll do then is you'll save yourself another third of the page where you've had to do spacings for all those different roles. Yeah. And you'll see that on the template. What I'll try and do. Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna ask if we can share these slides afterwards, and also can we share the template, because
can you see that?
It's going to be a lot easier to do that afterwards, and I'm very, very conscious that we've kept people a long time on this one.
Oh, sorry. I mean, it is on. You will find it on my website. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll do a link in the wrap up to that.
I'll send you the link afterwards, Neil, and you can send it out.
Yeah, we shall put it on there. Robert, there's been some really fantastic tips in there and takeaways for everybody. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I know I certainly have. If nothing else, just to talk about the owl again. I mean,
and again, sorry about the internet. I will now go and tie him up in the shed. No, I'm joking.
No, thanks a lot, Robert.
Robert, thanks for joining us. We'll get all the information from this, the slides, the links, everything that we've talked about. You will have access to when Neil does the wrap up from this show a little bit later. But Robert, thanks for joining us for the second time, and we'll see you very soon.
Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers, Robert. Cheers. Thanks, man. So here we are again, Don.
I know, right?
I've had a haircut.
Have you now?
Yeah, Diane is available to cut people's hair once social distancing ends.
Seriously,
job this time.
It's just getting beyond a joke. We should always finish with the update on lockdown hair. It is just getting beyond a joke. Elements of this could be permed. My children tried to put it in a ponytail at the weekend.
Where's your cap? You had a cap the other night.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was wearing the cap because it was a bit more social. This is a little bit more formal, or albeit only a little bit more formal.
I just wear it backwards.
No, it looks ridiculous. So this is where we're at. This is where we're up to. I can't get a haircut until the 4th of July. I absolutely don't trust even my 14-year-old daughter with my hair. So that's not happening.
Anyway, all right. Well, I'll just tell you about what's coming up in the
next because we got some good stuff.
We have got Paul Black from London Convention Bureau. Paul is a superstar. He's going to be telling us all about, how the crisis has affected London and what those guys are doing. So that is next Tuesday at 1:30.
Yes.
The following week, we've got Verity Wilkie from Paid Consultancy, who's going to be giving us all, and I think you're going to like this, going to be giving us all a LinkedIn masterclass. So I am looking forward to that personally myself.
Absolutely.
I'm a user of LinkedIn. So don't miss that, guys. But keep posted on the group for any shows that we've got coming up. And yeah, we'll see you. Any last things from you, Don?
No, I don't think so. It's been fun today. We've had, thanks to everybody. We've had a ton of comments on this one. Even right now, thank yous coming in from people. It's been really educational, really informative. I think lots of people have got lots out of it. We're trying to make these as relevant and as useful as possible, educational, entertaining, fun, and just generally informative. And we're really, really enjoying, I think both of us could say that we're both really enjoying doing this for you.
Absolutely.
And this isn't going to end just because we might start coming out of lockdown a little bit more over the next few weeks. I think, Neil, we're both committed to doing these, aren't we? Because they are being really useful.
Yeah, these are good. We're going to have these at least once a week, guys, going forward.
Yeah, and actually on
So
that
as long as there's
subject,
an audience for them.
yeah,
you know,
absolutely. And on the subject, we're obviously keeping to the schedule of 1:30 every Tuesday, but we have got a couple of fill-in shows coming up where we're finding other subjects that we want to try and cover as part of all of this as well, which are really important. So, keep an eye on the group on YouTube and anywhere else that you find Neil and Delegate Wranglers. But for now, I will say goodbye, and we will see you.
I was just going to say big thanks to all the YouTube people.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
As well. Thanks, guys.
The YouTubers as well. I'm sorry. But yeah, we will see you next Tuesday, 1:30. Every Tuesday at 1:30. From me, thank you very much and goodbye. And from Neil.
See you guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thank you.